guys. So I am a little late with this one. This is an ARC review of a book that actually came out, I think, last week. I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't know what time it is anymore. I just got back from a trip to the opposite coast of the country and the different time zones, everything. I'm a little bit just like, tired. But the fact that I've been traveling actually works out really well with the book that we're going to be talking today, which is Off the Map by Trish Doller. Again, I received this as an ARC, so thank you to Edelweiss and the publisher for giving me a free advanced review copy. But I have to say, this is a time when I think I made an unintentional mistake. What do I mean by that? I normally don't, even if, like in romance novels, right, you can read books out of order. If I see on Edelweiss that a book is tagged for a series, it's book 2, book 3, I'm not normally going to request it unless I've read the first book in the series. So I didn't see this, okay? On Goodreads, there is no series tag, but when you go into the reviews other people have left, they're calling it the third book in the Beck Sisters series, and I guess Edelweiss must have had that tag somewhere, I just didn't notice. But anyway, I have not read the first 2 books in this series. I am coming into this completely blind. So with that being said, when I found that out, you know, after I had kind of started to read the book, I wondered whether or not I would review it as its own book. Maybe I would miss some stuff, maybe I wouldn't know some stuff. And basically I decided I would read it and then see if I could review it on its own merit. And I think the answer is yes, but I just want to be transparent that I have not read the other books in this series. The reason that I think that this works okay as a standalone book is that it does not really engage with characters other than our romantic pairing, whether or not they've been in the book before, until much, much later on in the story. This is the story of Carla Black. She is a friend of one of the Beck sisters. And she is basically considered an honorary Beck sister for the purposes of this series. And she is headed to Ireland for one of the Beck sisters' weddings, one of these stories that was in one of the previous books. She is meant to be picked up by the brother of the groom, Eamon, and they are supposed to drive to the place where the wedding is taking place together. Now, Carla, she has been a world traveler her entire life. Her mom left when she was 12, and her dad basically decided that his way of handling that, not knowing really how to raise a teen girl, would be to start to travel with her. And they have been so many different places together. They have a Jeep Wrangler, they drive around in national parks, but also foreign travel, like everywhere. But a couple of years ago, Carla's father, who is called Biggie, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. And he basically said to her, I don't want you to have to watch me decline. I have a woman who, up until that point, they were not married, but they got married when he got his diagnosis. And he was like, this woman's going to take care of me. And I want you to remember me the way that I was and go off and don't stop traveling. So that's basically what Carla has been doing. She's been trying to outrun her troubles by traveling all over the world. Eamon had a lot of really, really big plans to travel and go places, but he in his family is basically the older, responsible brother. It's been his job to work, you know, in the stable job, have a good income, have the good home, and he actually works in software that makes maps. And so his irony is that he's always wanted to travel and go places, as the maps that he makes like show him all these different places, but he's never actually gone. So Carla and Eamon meet up. For whatever reason, he doesn't pick her up at the airport. That's not entirely clear. He picks her up at a pub near the airport. So Carla gets over there, and the second that they meet, there are just immediate sparks. This book does not waste time in the sparks department. They meet, they have a drink, they're talking, they keep drinking, they keep talking, and they realize that even though they're very dissimilar personalities, they are really attracted to each other and they should definitely do something about it. This starts off as going back to Ewan's apartment to sleep together rather than getting in their car and driving, starting to drive to where the wedding is. And when they wake up in the morning, Eamon's been telling her about these travels that he's wanted to have, these places that he's wanted to go. And it turns out that he has all of the equipment. Like, he bought the Jeep for himself, he bought all the camping equipment. And Carla says, well, the wedding is not for another couple of days. Why don't we take a small detour to go camping? The small detour becomes another detour, becomes another detour, and these two get up to hijinks and adventures, basically trying to complete as many side quests as possible before actually getting to the wedding. One thing to know about this book is that it is under 300 pages. It's like 272, I believe. It's just over 270. And what that means for the plot of this book is that, to me, it just didn't feel like there was a lot of it. Like I said, it wastes no time. It immediately gets our pair in bed together, you know, sleeping together. And originally it's just supposed to be like a fun vacation fling, right? But of course they grow closer over the travel period. As individual events, I actually really loved their different adventures and how Carla really sees herself as very flighty and non-permanent, but she's very, very smart. She's been a woman traveling alone for a number of years, and she has all of this knowledge with the Jeep, with the camping equipment, all of this stuff. And so she's really competent and smart, even though she sometimes doesn't think, you know, as highly of herself. Eamon, you know, he thinks of himself as like this really competent person in the office, but when he really gets out there, he realizes that, you know, the outside world is very different, and it's really sweet to see them working together. He never questions that, you know, she is the more competent one. He's not one of those male protagonists that's just like trying to assert his manly dominance on the whole thing. He just loves working with her and seeing these things with her and experiencing things with her, whether they're, you know, cute, romantic, or absolutely silly, which they get into later in the book as, you know, their adventures start to go a little bit more sideways than they intended. So in terms of that relationship, that is very cute. It's just not a lot of time spent with that, really. You realize after the second detour that Eamon is actually carrying the wedding rings. And so while Carla has not really been stressed about missing her best friend's wedding, for whom she is the maid of honor, and she's just like, oh no, this is fine, we can keep like doing this stuff and still get there in time for the wedding. He's like also carrying the rings. So I was already kind of stressed that they were doing all of this stuff prior to a wedding, and then to find out that they're carrying the rings and they still just keep going on different adventures. And while the initial detour didn't bother me that much, as they kept going, I just started to feel really stressed for Carla's friend, who, again, I have not met in other books, so I have no other personal connection to. And I was like, man, if this was my wedding and my maid of honor was just like, hey, I'm here, but I'm gonna keep like side questing until like the last possible second before your wedding rather than spending any of this time with you, that wouldn't work for me. They do talk about it later in the book, but I was still sitting there going, no, I just kind of feel uncomfortable with this. There is also in the end, and I don't want to spoil too much of this, but a great storyline between Carla and her father, where Carla basically realizes that even though her father said to keep traveling, to keep living, that is not what she wants, and she wants to go spend time with her father while he can still at least partially remember her. And so if, you know, discussions of parental illness, dementia, Alzheimer's, the struggle with that, you know, discussions of parental death, if you're not prepared for that and you don't want a book to kind of punch you in the emotional face with that in the end, this book really comes in the end with a super emotional wallop that, because the front of it has been like, you know, road trip hijinks, maybe you're not ready for it. At least I wasn't ready for it to take like such an emotional turn. So I don't want to like spoil the beauty of it, but at the same time, if that's not what you need or want, you're not gonna want to read this book. Do not be fooled by the fun road trippy bit in the beginning. Again, because the book is so short and it's trying to pull all of this emotional weight, I just in the end did feel like it was a little bit too short. Like, it was a fun way to spend some time, but at the same time, it's trying to have this relationship, it's trying to have the wedding for characters that you've met in other books, and like where their relationship is, and the family dynamics between the brothers that are there, and then Carla's thing with her dad and going back there and dealing with like Alzheimer's and dementia, and again in 270 pages. So in the end, I think the thing that got short shrift was the relationship. Like, I totally get that for them it was just lust at first sight, and they do spend some time talking, but like the depth of the relationship that we're supposed to feel in the end, I just wasn't entirely like really feeling. But maybe also I was very distracted by like Carla's own emotional pain. All in all, this may be a cute, quick, fun kind of like coda book if you've read the other two Beck Sisters books. I was reading some reviews and looking at some reviews from people who've read the other two books, and they've said that this is definitely not their favorite in the series because it is so fast and quick. So there might be something to that. What I'll say for me is that I am definitely amused by road trip romances. They're an unintentional genre I've read quite a few of in the past year or so, and this is definitely like road trip light. I have seen like some second chances that do this like much more emotionally intensely, but if you're looking for we're gonna have a fun little road trip and then emotional trauma at the end, as opposed to like something like Beth O'Leary's The Road Trip where it's just like second chance baggage stress the entire time, this might be a book that you're interested in. I don't regret the time that I spent on it, but at the same time, it's kind of like a book that I read and now I'm moving on from. So maybe you want to check it out from your local library. Maybe you want to start with the earlier books in this series. After reading this one, I'm not necessarily inspired to go back and read the Beck Sisters. I feel like I'm pretty well fine with this story. So I came out pretty ambivalent on it, to be honest. And again, really wanted to make this review mostly because I feel like that ending, that really strong emotional ending, is something that people need to be aware of before they read it. As someone who has had family members that struggled and then died with Alzheimer's and dementia, it brings up a lot of really complicated feelings. And I don't mean to say that the book does it bad, but I was not ready for that in the end. I was enjoying the light fluff bit, so I just wanted to talk about that and maybe give some other people some awareness of that before you read it. I'm still very jet lagged myself, so I am going to go take a nap. And I've really thrown off my reviewing schedule, so I'm hoping to keep to it, but it's just a really rough, struggly time with school and everything right now. So here's hoping I'll be back with my next review more on time than this one, but I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. I'm trying, guys. Thanks. Bye.